Now I think almost all of that is broken. Every single CRO or CMO who I talk to, even down to just account executives who are trying to like make their nut at some company,
hmm
they're just like, email is broken. Nobody picks up the phone. I'm not allowed to text message. How am I supposed to spammy get in front of people? And the
Yeah,
answer is you
you're not.
can't. It doesn't work anymore. And so stop trying. One of the things we do at Tailorbird is we consider an outbound email an impression.
Welcome to Frank Growth. I'm Jason Shafton. I run the growth consulting firm Winston Francois. Around here, we tell the truth about growing. The good, the bad, and the can't say it out loud ugly. Every episode, we get tactical with operators, investors, and builders. What works, what breaks, and what to do next. No fluff, no vanity metrics, no hustle theater, just signal. This is Frank Growth. Let's get into it. Today, Lindsay Crittendon, building a repeatable revenue system. Before we bring Lindsay on, let me just get into a quick riff on this topic. Most teams think that revenue strategy is sell harder. It's not. It's architecture. 3 questions decide whether revenue compounds or collapses as you scale. Is the funnel real? Not vibes. It's stage conversion, time and stage, and a clear definition of what qualified means. Is the motion aligned to the product and the buyer? Because the wrong motion makes growth feel expensive, slow, and chaotic. Is the system accountable? Messaging, process, incentives, and forecasting that tell the truth early. Here are 3 traps I see all the time. 1, hiring your way out of a positioning problem. More reps isn't going to solve it. 2, measuring activity instead of signal. 3, calling forecasting a spreadsheet instead of an operating rhythm. That's the frame we'll use today with Lindsay. Now let's get tactical. Lindsay, welcome to Frank Growth. You and I go back to our Headspace days, and I'm saying this very plainly. You've been my go-to leader for sales and revenue strategy ever since. You're the operator I call when I want the truth about what's actually happening in the funnel and what to do next. And sometimes I'm crying, and sometimes I'm really excited to share a win with you. But let's go easy. So first, thank you for being here.
Of course, it's always for you, anything.
So let's just warm up here. Let's just get the
Great.
juices flowing. In one sentence, what is revenue strategy?
Yeah, it's interesting. It might be the hardest question to answer, a single sentence. Revenue strategy is thinking about how you're going to persistently make money over time. Sales or marketing or customer success are like, what's the heroic thing that you're doing? But a revenue strategy is persistent and it makes you money all the time.
All right, so let's get a little tactical. Lindsay, what's the number one thing that teams overlook when they're trying to build that repeatable revenue engine?
Yeah. So, Jason, for a little context, my
Please.
experience is kind of seed stage to Series CD-ish in terms of B2B scale. So I'm going to mostly be talking from that vantage point. And the thing that teams look over is a little different in every stage. But the very first thing that they really overlook is how their customers use their software and what their customers care the most about. I know that sounds a little bit unusual. I'm a CRO right now, so you think all I care about is new business and sales and new customers. But the reality is that if you really want to understand why you're making a lot of money or why you're not making money at all, it's because of what your customers who've already paid you money, what they care about. And so a lot of times when people are building their grand marketing plans or their sales strategies or working on their pitch, they have not talked to anyone in their post-sale organization, that they're just taking the talking points that they've been given. And that's a real oversight that people don't seem to actually appreciate in practice. I think heroics, I think, is the word that I use when I
Yes,
work with
I
teams.
like
It's like the level of heroics as opposed to something that's strategic, persistent, and anchored in actual customer value.
Yeah.
Everyone will say things like that. The actual hard part is executing on it day to day and putting it into practice. It requires a lot more discipline than I think most teams are prepared for.
So when you step into a new revenue org, what do
Mhm.
you do and how do you kind of diagnose things first? Is
I
it the
lost your
pipeline,
audio.
the process, the people, the positioning, and why do you start there?
The very first thing that I look at, even before I've stepped in to a revenue organization, is what are the customers doing with your product or service? First and foremost, do they stay with you? Do they not? Number one. Number two is positioning. From my experience, if you're having a hard time selling, if you've got like some leads, even if you have a moderate lead problem, but you've got some leads and you can't land a sale, but you have customers who like what you're doing, then that is a positioning issue. And then kind of the third thing that I'll look at is quality of the conversations that are go through the funnel, really focused on how an account executive or the person who's trying to close the deal, how they listen, what they say, and what kind of space they leave in the deal to be flexible, get things done. And so some of that's qualitative, some of that is quantitative. But if you want to hear what I think is the number one unlock to sales,
Yes.
it is product marketing and positioning. It
Hey.
is how it is positioned and then how that value is proven. It's the foundation to getting any deal done.
Well, you teed me up for my next question because, you know, as a marketer and a growth guy, all I think about is like the who, right? And what are we going to say to them and how do we talk to them and who are they? What makes them up? B2B, it's firmographics, and B2C, it's demographics. So how do you define a good ICP in a way that actually improves the win rate and the sales cycle and is not just like a pretty persona slide?
We like our persona slides though,
Yeah, no,
right?
they're
They like
cool.
look good in team meetings, look nice in investor decks, focused, extremely focused, so much more focused than anyone. Your CEO will be uncomfortable. Your CRO or CMO will be uncomfortable. A focused ICP is most critical. It doesn't mean that your business is forever anchored to that ICP. You can grow into adjacencies. You can grow into different parts of the market with that ICP, but it has got to be clear as day. So ICPs that I like to see are size of company based on revenue or number of employees, geographic footprint, maybe even organization structure. For instance, I'm currently with a company that focuses on real estate. Real estate has like 7,000 variables you could be
Hmm.
using for your ICP. What's the
Mhm.
strategy? What are the interest rates? How's it organized? Where do they get their money from? How do they pay bills? All of that sort of stuff kind of goes into our ICP. And it may mean you have a 500 or 600 company list that you're working from to start
Right.
with. That's not your TAM. That's not your long term business. A real ICP is a hyper focused one you can repeat against over time.
For those who are trying to figure out the motion for their business, trying to understand the best way to go to market, what's your guidance? What's the signal? How do you think about that? And what is the framework you use?
I'll start with the framework I don't use, which is fundraising thesis, or because random other entrepreneur, CEO, or head of marketing did X.
Mhm,
I think one
mhm.
of the things that gets people really tripped up is everyone is doing PLG right now. No, everyone is actually all about SMB and never getting on the phone with anyone. And these are all trends and fads that they're just tools. They're tools. The ultimate question is, what did you build? Who wants to buy it? How much are they willing to spend? If they're only willing to spend $100 a month, please do not be getting on the phone with them. That is a PLG motion through and through. If your contract sizes are 30, 50, 100,000 for your first point of acquisition, please do not spend a bunch of time on a PLG motion. Your CEO might be like, no, but this is the only way we scale. You might get a ton of friction, but that is not the way for your business to work. And I think it's really important to evaluate that stage by stage by stage. In the very beginning, you're just experimenting a lot. And you have to be fearless in that experimentation. You have to be willing to say, we started out as sales led. That is not working. Contract values are too low. We're going to do X number of experiments and we're going to learn if actually we shouldn't have salespeople.
Mm,
Or if you start out PLG and you say, we're not having sales, but you have a sticky part of your funnel where you can't get people over the line, run
mhm.
an experiment, get on the phone with them and see if that's actually, do you need to have a person or is there a way to build a feature into that part of your funnel that substitutes for the person? And there are some industries where it is one or the other. If you are selling to software developers, please do not make them get on the phone with a salesperson. I'm selling to really large real estate funds. They are in-person human people. You shake hands, you sign paper. It's really important. And so you just can't dictate what you want onto your prospected customer and expect it to work out at like a
Yeah.
venture level scale.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
No, that makes a ton of sense. How do you build these kind of predictable outbound engines that aren't
Oh,
just spam factories?
pre-AI, post-AI.
Mhm,
Pre-AI, you had an outbound spam machine. You emailed a bunch of different people, had thousands of companies on a target list. Now, I think almost all of that is broken. Every single CRO or CMO who I talk to, even down to just account executives who are trying to like make their nut at some company.
Hmm.
They're just like, email is broken. Nobody picks up the phone. I'm not allowed to text message. How am I supposed to spammy get in front of people? And the
Yeah,
answer is you
you're not.
can't. It doesn't work anymore.
Right.
And so stop trying. One of the things we do at Tailorbird is we consider an outbound email an impression. Like the idea is just to get our name in front of them, and it's a cheap way to get an impression. But if you expect your cold outbound emails for anyone to respond to them, those days are over.
NGMI, not going to make
Not
it.
going to make it.
Okay. All right. Another one that I think a lot about. What is the minimum viable sales process? What are like the stages, the definitions that just have to be there before you kind of start scaling headcount and building out this system?
The minimum viable sales process is the thing that your founder is able to do consistently over time. Very first answer. The only sales process that matters is the one that gets you in front of people to have enough conversations to experiment around what people want. All right. So until you get to 1 million or 2 million in sales, you're that guy, and don't be trying to pawn that off onto anyone else. There are so many kind of technical founders who are really uncomfortable with sales. Actually, you don't even have to be technical. You could just be uncomfortable with sales and you want to outsource that to absolutely everyone. But the reality is that early stage sales is about you and it's about your vision of the world and it's about what comes out of your mouth,
Right.
whether you like it or not. Okay, so rant over. Unfortunately, you
No,
had
it's
to hear
good.
that from me.
That's what people need to hear.
Once you get to about 1 million or so, maybe up to 3 million in sales, if you're really efficient, and you are too busy, you're legitimately too busy. You have more inbound than you can handle. You have more customer recommendations that you can handle. Not like busy because you're uncomfortable with selling. Again, that is not the answer. The answer is, oh my gosh, I have leads I can't get to. I have conversations I'm losing track of
Mm.
because I have too many other conversations or deals I'm trying to close. That's when I would think about starting your first, finding your first account executive. And I would look for someone who's like a general manager oriented, like real hustler. I wouldn't try and don't think you're going to pull someone out of Salesforce who's going to be able to survive in that environment. You need someone who's kind of as entrepreneurial as you are.
So that's a good segue to hiring. So when it's
Yeah.
time to hire the team and build a sales org, how do you design, comp incentives so that the reps do the right things and don't game the system?
Okay. On some level, you want the reps to be gaming the
Right. You
system.
want
You
them to
just
try to
don't
make
want it
money.
to bankrupt you.
There you go. So rephrase it for me, but yeah.
Yeah, first and foremost, depending on your stage and how much revenue you have and how worked out your process is, for the love of God, you need to have 20% of your bookings or your revenue, however you're calculating progress here, set aside for commission. If you put that in your budget and into your financial model, when you see that you have to write a big check, it is not going to freak you out as much. So first and foremost, like you have to get your own psychology right about compensation and incentive structures. Once you're at that point, simple, straightforward, easy to understand is the place to start. Over time, as you learn more about your business, you find the loopholes in your plan, you see your weird customer behavior, all of that sort of stuff, you'll have to keep getting more complex plans. But in the beginning, it's here's a quota, here's how much money if you hit that quota, here's what happens if you're under the quota. So I like to have a team and be very, very straightforward. And even in the beginning, a lot of people will say, well, should account executives just do new business? Should customer success own renewals? Who should own expansions? How should that relationship work? How do we give credit? In the early stages, like even into series, like mature series A, you should only be worried about that if it matters to your customer. And you should only be worried about it if it matters to your runway. Otherwise, give as many people credit as you can. And then, like you said, just take the feedback, put it in the system. What do you have to do? What do you have to do?
Make it better.
Sales incentive plans should really mirror what you need to do in your business model and what your cash forecast dictates for your business.
This is a related question. As you were talking, it made me think. So for the CEOs and founders listening, should your top seller make more money than you, the CEO
Yeah.
or founder?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the reality is that hopefully you have a lot more equity than they do.
Yeah. The early stage companies, though, it's not to be, you're not supposed to be paying yourself more than your best seller.
You are not.
Yeah.
And in many ways, if you have someone who is able to buy a house, can buy a new car, they have their first kid, these are the things you want your sellers to be
Living
doing
wage.
with you. 100%. You actually, those are signs that you are doing something right, even if it means that they're making more money than you in any given quarter. They're taking on a lot of risk to work for you, and you should compensate them
Yeah.
accordingly.
That's good. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, it's important.
So what is, and this is you and I right now, but what does a healthy sales and marketing kind of operating rhythm look like? What do you like to see in terms of collaboration between those teams?
One of my favorite, Jason, I went to kind of a CRO, small closed room CRO summit in the fall. And what was really funny is that the number one thing every single one of them said is next time I'm a CRO, I'm owning marketing. I'm too dependent on these people. If they don't do the positioning the way I want them to do the positioning, I can't hit my number. It can be a really adversarial relationship. From my perspective, each person has their own superpowers. I know I'm responsible for marketing, right? I have the luxury of being able to boss marketing around, but what good does it do to have experts on my team if I'm just in the process of trying to micromanage what they do from a sales
Yeah.
standpoint? That was like not how this
And
should
when
work.
you're not, and when you and the CMO are peers, then what?
Yeah. So when we're peers, what I think is really important is not that different from how you partner with a head of product, which is ask them for what's your roadmap? What's your strategy? How are you thinking about things? When can I expect things to be delivered? So you have to put a little bit of a like project manager hat
Mhm.
on to effectively manage cross functionally. But most importantly, you need to have a foundational respect for the other person's skill sets. You will die if the CMO doesn't do a good job, and the CMO
Need
will
those
not have proof
leads.
that they did a good job
Yep.
if you can't close business. This is a partnership, and
Hey, we
you
we
really
became best
you have
friends
to.
at Headspace, and we
Yeah,
were
we
we were
did.
good partners, and we had a good machine running. I think,
Yeah,
if it's any credit to your style as a sales leader, being collaborative and partnering and, not being in the finger pointing business. Well, it's marketing's fault. Well, it's sales fault. It's
like
critical.
honestly, it's both of your fault if you're doing that.
Yeah,
Be
don't do that.
grown-ups.
Exactly. That's good
Just be
advice for
grown-ups
everyone all the time.
all the
All right, so
time.
let's go.
The
All right,
time.
so let's go. Let's do speed round. So
Great.
quick ones. What's one metric you look at every week that most teams are ignoring?
Product usage.
Ooh, I like it. What's one discovery question you think every seller should ask?
How expensive is this problem to you today?
Ooh, I love that. If the pipeline is dry, what's the first lever you pull in the next 7 days?
Pick up the phone.
If deals stall in legal and procurement, what is the one move that usually helps?
Call your stakeholder and ask them to walk over to procurement's office.
I love it. It's a lot of picking up the phone.
A
Okay,
lot.
before we get into kind of almost like two more questions for you, but one thing that I want to share a story that, if it's okay with you, but
Okay.
one of the last sales coaching sessions you did with me
Mm.
was to kind of teach me about this thing. And I don't know if it's a secret or if I'm allowed to share it, but the idea that when you're selling and you want to kind of build trust and kind of create some momentum, you can say, look, hey, I'm happy to execute a mutual NDA with you, and they sign and you sign, and they've signed a document. It feels like you're moving forward, but it's not binding. It's not any kind of, oh, I'm going to work with you, or I'm signing a contract to be a customer.
I think for your business in
For
particular,
me
it
and for
works
others,
very
maybe
well.
it's not the right thing.
Yeah, but what it's emblematic of is what's that first thing we can do together?
Yeah,
What's the
yeah.
first thing that we can do together that turns it from I'm trying to sell you something to we're on the same side of the table trying to get something done.
I love that. All right. So let's have a little bit of a war story moment. So share a time that you had to really like drive a turnaround effort. So revenue slowdown, miss number, OKRs, something bad's happening. What did you change? What was the kind of step by step? Here's how we diagnosed, here's how we changed and kind of moved forward and got back on track.
One of the ones that I think is most interesting is that I worked with a company really hands-on who had white hot product market fit early and then they lost it. And the number one thing that you have to be willing to do is let go of the idea that you have product market fit and be willing to say, I don't have the product market fit that I used to have. I'm going to have to take all of my fundraising ambitions and my vacation ambitions, and I have to be willing to wind the clock back. And
Mm,
so I think from my perspective, the very first thing you have to do is definitively find the data that's telling you that story. So you may, as a revenue leader, know that in your gut feeling is not good enough. You need to run the experiments, you need to get on the calls, you need to compile the evidence. From there, it's really digging into the product. Is
mm,
it positioning or is it people? And go step by step by step between those. And most of the time, what I've discovered is that there is a product problem, there's a positioning problem.
mm,
Third, it's people, either the people you're targeting or the people who are inside of the organization. But most of the time, at that point, when you're at turnaround, the people inside of the organization, as long as they are not resentful or exhausted, are your best resource. They're still there. They still want to be engaged. They actually know more than anyone else you could bring into the organization. And so it's probably product, then it's probably positioning thereafter. Those are the things that I lean into in turnaround stories.
Okay, so Lindsay, this was specific. It was usable. It's
Right.
exactly why I am doing this show. So thank you. Where can people find you online? What should they reach out to you about? And is there
Yeah.
anything you want to promote or share on the show today?
Yeah, thanks. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Lindsay Crittendon. Please connect with me there. I'm in other platforms, but that's the one where I'm most active. And reach out to me for advice. I have learned a lot, but I have also had just the most incredible set of mentors and managers who have believed in me and let me fall down and skin my knees. And so if there's a way that I can be helpful to people who are starting a career, mid-career, absolutely stuck, hold Outbound me. I will respond to you on
Hey,
LinkedIn.
gonna work.
It'll work.
Not to sell you something, to ask you for help.
Yes, just ask me for help. Do not
Excellent.
try and sell me something, please.
Excellent. I just wanted to clarify that for everyone. All
Yeah,
right,
thank you.
Lindsay, thank you so much for joining us. This was
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, it was a real pleasure. Thanks, Jason.
That was Lindsay Crittendon and a clean map for turning revenue into a system. Let's talk about the 3 takeaways from today. If you remember nothing else, remember this. 1, ICP discipline beats scale fantasies. A real ICP is small, specific, and repeatable. A 500 company list is a starting tool, not a TAM. If you can't sell the same motion to the same buyer profile over and over, you do not have an ICP yet, and probably not product market fit. Your go-to-market motion must match price and buyer behavior. PLG, sales-led, and hybrid are not ideologies. They are tools. Sub $100 a month products should not involve humans. $30,000 to $100,000 contracts should. Trends do not matter. Willingness to pay does, and being able to shake somebody's hand. 3, founders own sales until it breaks from volume, not discomfort. Until roughly $1 to $2 million in revenue, the only sales process that matters is what the founder can run over and over again. You hire your first AE when leads and conversations exceed your capacity, not when selling feels awkward. Write down the rule in one sentence and put it in the team's operating cadence. The pipeline review doc, CRM stage exit criteria, a qualification checklist. Make it executable, not inspirational. All right, that's Frank Growth. If this gave you something you can use this week, follow the show and share it with one operator who needs it. I'm Jason Shafton from Winston Francois. We help tech companies build sustainable, repeatable growth with a proven operating system. The show notes and takeaways are in the description. Be frank and keep growing.